What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 108. My name is Bret, aka Enigma 9011, and today I'm joined by Kris once again, aka Kris at Young Toff One. Kris, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm hanging in there. Like we were talking about briefly just pre-show. We last spoke back in May, and I was about to move, and so much has unfolded since then.
Yeah,
So, yeah. It should be a fun chat. There's so
definitely.
much to cover.
Good. I'm glad. You guys can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on the conversation. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. It's posted topic by topic and as one big video in MP3 on the following Friday for your amusement on YouTube and podcast services. Last but not least, Extra Life is coming up on Saturday, November 20th, 12 noon Eastern, 24 hours of gaming to help out the kids at Children's Miracle Network Hospital. So if you're listening to this on the full drop on Friday, it is tomorrow. Any way you can help us out by either donating, watching, or just spreading the word about the event would be awesome, and we would love you for it. So yes, we got Kris on once again today, and we're talking about some wrestling. We're talking some AEW today. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we got chatting about AEW briefly on Twitter, and we're like, oh shit, this would be a great conversation to have with Kris. We talked in the past with Kyle about our history with wrestling. So yeah, Kris, what got you into AEW? What got you excited?
Well, I guess to put it as simply as I can, the creative potential.
Mm,
Those that follow WWE and more importantly that kind of follow the behind the scenes stuff. We know and kind of understand that things in WWE don't really unfold the way that we as fans would like them to sometimes, and that's due to their creative process, which for some reason it has its constraints, and so the potential for that to be not so much a consideration, that has me excited just to kind of see what happens moment to moment. And so far, it hasn't really disappointed. Um, yeah. So yeah, that was it. I was actually just recently having a conversation about people's promo ability
mm-hmm.
and how that used to just be a standard tool in their bag, and how in WWE people are either enhanced or not because of they're handed a script and that kind of a thing. So yeah, I really like the improvisational part of the promos, and it does feel very WCW ish, but I don't want to draw like too many comparisons. But there are some things that bring up the nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's good. Yeah, I dig
Nice.
it.
Did you start checking out the product right away, or were you a little bit after? Because I know they started technically with like All In. I wasn't around at that time, but obviously when it got to the main cable stuff with TNT, I was like, oh, okay, I'll latch on and see how this goes. What about you? Where's your jump in point?
Um, well, probably when I first started watching it, um, like really watching it was definitely once it began to, Dynamite started and it was televised. I think I did watch one of the earlier pay-per-views, but I watched YouTube Wrestle Talk. I think
Oh,
I've
okay.
I've mentioned in a previous video, and I like the way that they cover wrestling just kind of in general. I feel like they have reasonable expectations, but still kind of
Mm-hmm.
voice the frustrations of the more than casual wrestling fan, like folks like you and I, and like you mentioned Kyle earlier. There's things that like when we see our favorite wrestlers, jump in, there's things that we would like to see happen while they're in WWE. And so that, um it's just like I said, one of those things where now there's this creative freedom, and now there's an alternative where there didn't exist one before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really keeping an eye on the formation of things early on because of the involvement of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and I really liked New Japan, and I got caught up in the social media, the pro wrestling zeitgeist of indies and the New Japan style, and it's an entire rabbit hole, and so yeah, so the again, the idea that something similar to that product can be here in America and feature our favorite people that we've seen in the WWE and also not, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, that was really kind of what got me really going. What really got me completely latched on is my favorite wrestler of all time ever since ever is Sting, and I'll watch whatever he's on. I don't care if it's Barney. I don't care.
Nice. Do you like that Sting's paired with Darby and kind of helping him out?
I do. I do. I can kind of see, you know, I'd like to see him kind of doing in his own program, doing his own thing.
Yep.
I really like Darby Allin, and I like that he's not trying to be Sting Jr. There's, you know, I kind of think that, you know, there's definitely some parallels, but um, yeah, no, I think it's a neat pairing, and I like the matches and the way they kind of use Darby to really get the crowd, you know, popping for high spots and things, and Sting is still a really capable wrestler in his 60s.
Yeah.
Um, and wearing face paint, you know, he can kind of be ageless for a long time.
Right.
So I think it's really cool. Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, Darby Allin's he does kind of remind me a bit of Jeff Hardy in a lot of ways, and he's better on the microphone than I really anticipated that he would be early on,
For sure.
because he had such because that silent mystique thing, and I guess I just made the assumption that maybe that was, you know, covering up for the lack of speaking ability, but that's not the case. The guy can talk. Uh, yeah, yeah. When we talk about Full Gear, his match with MJF, it was sensational.
Oh,
It
okay.
was, yeah. There were moments. Anyway, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad that Sting's able obviously to do what he can in the ring, especially, considering all the Rollins stuff, unfortunately. But glad to see him
Yeah.
bounce back and get back in there. So you've mentioned a couple names already: Omega, the Bucks. Obviously, we just talked about Darby and Sting. Is there any other like big names that kind of stick out to you as like, oh shit, like I really like so and so?
As far as now that they're in AEW, that
Yeah, just anybody who's on
iteration,
that
yeah,
roster. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's really great to see people that in WWE, I want I say we all loosely, but like wrestling fans really wanted to see, like, you know, Rusev really be something more than just like a stereotype of a foreigner,
Mhm.
and you know, Aleister Black, now Malachi Black, like using that mystique as being, you know, Undertaker adjacent, you know, like he has like these qualities that WWE just never leaned into. Um, man, Andrade El Idolo, man, I love that guy.
Mhm.
Like I'm as a Mexican American myself, I love watching luchadors. With man, it he came out during an NXT, there was a takeover, and he came out in his La Sombra mask and he pulled it off, and he was with Zelina Vega, and like it was just like a really grand entrance, and that had it just, oh man, it hits you right, and I love the character that he plays right now, with this like mafia, you know, it's yeah, I really like what they're able to do again with that creative freedom, and so yeah, Malachi Black, Andrade, Miro. Yeah, man, it's, you know, even Chris Jericho. Even Chris Jericho. I mean, he's just a completely different guy. Like I still really like the era of the list
Oh, yep.
and him and KO being best friends. That carried me through that time of WWE. It was hilarious. Jericho is hilarious, but now he can portray himself as a badass, and he's believable. And I mean, it's really fun to watch. And he had a great match. There's a 5-on-5, uh, and he had some pretty good moments too. He had a tribute to Eddie Guerrero that
Oh,
was
good.
really good. I mean, Jericho I think he is in his 50s or just turned 50 recently,
Yeah.
and he got airborne. It
Oh,
was it was pretty cool to watch. Yeah.
nice.
So yeah.
So you've mentioned some
Um,
ex WWE guys or former. Is there any new faces that have stuck out to you? Whether maybe you
uh,
just didn't see him as
yeah,
much in Indies or just like totally brand new.
yeah. I mean, is it John Silver
Yeah.
from the Dark Order?
Yeah.
I love that guy. You know, I'm only about 5'6", and I'm like, if I was a pro wrestler, that I could. He makes me feel like I can do it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
hysterical. My dad's been catching up on BTE, and he's
Oh,
bringing up
okay.
silver
Yeah.
segments. He's like, Jesus Christ. And I like how that's something I like with AEW, how they're not scared to be like flexible with their other programming. Like obviously the vlogs from whoever 800 people doing the vlogs or whatever now, like pulling in certain aspects of that, and like even with the
Yeah.
recent Adam Cole match and the Budge thing, like it's
Yep.
silly, but you know it's like, oh, you care, you know, it's just nice that you're paying attention to these things.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, and I really like. MJF is a really good heel.
Oh my god, so
Um, yeah. He knows how to make people hate him. It's a skill. And then we talked about Darby Allin earlier. Sammy Guevara is, at first I really wasn't sold on him. The last probably the very early AEW days, he seemed like he carried himself well, but in terms of being in the ring was in over his head.
mm.
And gradually there's been matches where I've been like, oh hey, the match he had for the TNT Championship with Miro, it was just recently, was one of the best matches I think I've ever seen.
Oh wow, okay,
They
nice.
do a spot where it's some kind of combination of Sammy taking Miro on this backflip ride, but it also looks like Miro could have been clotheslining him. It looks like it breaks physics,
Oh
and
okay.
he puts the move on Miro, and it was. There's very few things anymore in wrestling where you're just like, gets you out of your seat. And I just had to pause it and like go grab people from the other room. I was like, you don't even watch wrestling, but you got to come see this. Come check
Right.
this out. Like he just broke reality. And so yeah, that was a really really good moment, and I dig Sammy. Yeah, I really like the women's division and all of the people that you've seen either in Impact or in other promotions, NXT probably too. Um, but they put on a really really good women's product without needing the to kind of lean on what WWE does. They kind of have a handful of people that they know are really reliable workers, and they just kind of rely on them. Where I
Mhm.
feel like in AEW, they're putting them kind of through their same rigmarole as the men. Like you got to get in where you fit in, and you're gonna get paired up with other people. We're gonna see who brings out what in you. It's if you're really watching wrestling for wrestling, it's really kind of refreshing to kind of see that they're really. The expectation feels like they're wrestlers, and so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, Corey and I were talking about the women last week because we were feeling like there's something missing still of like just what's the how do I want to explain it? Maybe it's just like maybe importance. And then I was listing off all the talent, and I'm like, these are all like names that I can just list off, and like I feel like they're legitimate. Like you mentioned, obviously
Mhm.
WWE having like the 4 or 5 that they rely on, and then you got the others where like you're there, but you need some work. And like these ladies, I can list off like 10, and I'm like, yeah, I'd feel confident with you. It's a weird thing. I don't know if it's just like maybe still I need to see more of them to kind of get like the face value or like the audience connection or whatever it is. I think that's maybe lacking. But yeah, when they're in
Mhm.
the ring, it's definitely great, and it's cool to see the progression from some of them. Like Ty Conti, for example, obviously had the championship match last night. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think she was signed in NXT, but I don't think she ever made it on NXT TV. Like, it was just PC stuff. And
I mean, if anything, yeah, very sparingly. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like seeing obviously her growth and like the investment in her, that's fantastic. And then
Right.
like Thunder Rosa, I didn't know who she was, but she's been blowing up over like this past year and a half. Like, good for
Right.
her.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I really like her too. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like it leaves, for people that want to discuss wrestling, the ability actually to critique them based on like legitimate criteria. It's not in WWE. It's easy to get lost in the sauce of the marketing and the packaging and the the Eva Marie's of the world,
Mhm.
like, you know, even Liv Morgan to an extent, that she's definitely had some progression in terms of her ability in ring, but you know, she's really marketable, and I think that's what kind of keeps her around over somebody like Ember Moon, who can like legitimately throw down,
Yeah.
you know. So, but and again, like those are conversations that we're not really having about women's divisions yet, and I
Mhm.
think that now there's so many women out there wrestling, and Impact has a legitimate women's division. Right,
Absolutely.
you know, and I haven't even gotten caught up on what's happening there. Aside from the handful of women that are in there just completely killing it. Mickey James is in there killing it too, you know,
Yep.
like yeah, women's wrestling is in a really good place.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody be elevated, and especially with like the Forbidden Door and like all the crossovers. And we mentioned Ty with NXT. Like Deanna's another one. Deanna Purrazzo in Impact. Like she did nothing in NXT, and like
Yeah,
seeing what she's
yeah.
done, it's insane. And yeah, like it's interesting to see each promotion like have their just their moment with their women's division. Like obviously WWE had the women's revolution, and that was great. And like NWA's doing their stuff, and Impact obviously with their tag scene and just their scene in general. Like that's a strong division. Just seeing like everybody just elevate is yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing like, you know, Charlotte versus Britt Baker, just to
right.
kind of see one like where their overlaps are in terms of skill and ability, but there's got to be a difference in style and a
Mm.
difference in approach between the two. And so, and you know, that's a whole fun conversation to take down the rabbit hole, but anyway, I mean, hey, maybe we'll see that in the future. We'll see.
Maybe. I mean, who knows how real this heat is, and if Charlotte's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
Obviously, Andrade's over there, so I mean, I'm sure Tony's
Yep.
not going to be like, nah, fuck that. He's going to be welcoming her in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So speaking of bringing new people in, obviously AEW's had a lot of either crossovers with the Forbidden Door and other companies making appearances, and then obviously signing new people, including Jay Lethal last night, which is fantastic. Is there anybody who's not currently in AEW, whether they're signed to a different promotion or not, that you'd like to see maybe show up one day?
AJ Styles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think with the history that I mean, the storylines writes this, you know, the writes themselves. He has history with both ex WWE guys, but also, I mean, everyone up the roster that from New Japan to Impact to. So I think, and I hope that there's one AEW slash New Japan slash Impact. You know, he goes on like the AEW, you know, retirement tour. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And comes in and hits all those. That would really give me. He's one of my favorites to watch. And yeah, and I have some criticisms too. You know, and they are kind of WWE centric.
Mm.
You know, I really like AJ Styles. But if you look at his body of work when he first came in those first few years versus now he's, you know, Mr. Reliable. I just lost my light.
Nope.
Nope,
There you
still there.
go.
Um, you know, versus these last handful of years. Nope, that thing just wants to be dead. That's okay. We'll live without it. You know, WWE kind of has that safe style. They
Hmm.
do a lot of shows, and you know, there's just they all kind of have like their handful of moves that they do that, you know, they hit their marks and then they get out of there.
Hmm.
And it's fun to see in AEW and New Japan especially. Those guys they act like that's the last match they're ever gonna be in, and everything counts, and there's zero room for error, and
Right.
the tables there, they're not you know, they don't break so easily. You know, it's a whole different thing, and so yeah, I'd like to see the old AJ kind of come through on a tear and just work his way right up the roster in AEW.
Nice. Not gonna lie, that wasn't the first person I thought you were gonna say. I thought we were gonna hear Bray. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, only because I think that I kind of expect that he's already going to.
Okay.
You know, and but like I mean, samesies, yeah. Like I absolutely love Bray Wyatt, and you know, and I think that the the time he spent as the Fiend kind of overshadowed his actual in-ring ability. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
he was portraying this monster that was just, you know, eating everyone's finishing moves and standing straight up.
Yep.
Um, and I thought, you know, it was a great character. And I think that with the right opponent, they really could have found a way to tell the story of how to break him down to being a normal opponent kind of a thing. But
Right.
in ring, he's great. I mean, there was a short period where the Wyatt family and the Shield were constantly going at it, and those are some all-time great tag team matches. Um, there was a few of those. You know how WWE likes to do when you're going to be somebody's championship opponent. Well, you know, on the Go Home show, you guys are gonna be tag team partners, and Roman Reigns and I believe Wyatt were tag teaming for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And they had some really cool moments together. It just his in ring just didn't get enough credit, I don't think. And so in AEW, I like that you don't have as much of the production aspect to, you know, kind of hide guys that may not be hot in ring.
Gotcha.
You know, so someone like Bray Wyatt who kind of has both, where he's a showman. You know, he kind of like Malachi Black. You know, he can make the crowd move, but also in ring will also, you know, get you out of your seat too. But I tell you what, there's hardly anything as cool as a Bray Wyatt entrance.
Mhm.
I got to a couple live events and pre Fiend,
Oh, okay.
and it was still just an experience to everyone with their phones out, the fireflies, and um, yeah, it was still really cool. I would have loved to have been around to you know to see a Fiend entrance in person.
Mhm.
Um, but when he came out for the first time, and I came to the realization that it was the same theme song remixed,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
I absolutely lost it. It was like in my head, all of these synapses are connecting, and I'm like all these dots, and I'm just like, this man is a genius, you know. Like, oh, I was absolutely a mark. It was great. Yeah, it was fantastic. So, anyway, yeah, I can go on about that. Yeah, I really do hope he shows up and sometime soon. I was hoping he showed up at Full Gear last night. I really
Yeah,
was.
it's become one of those things like they have so many people showing up. It's almost like, all right, who's next? Like, like I said, Lethal's great. I'm happy he's signed, but like I wasn't expecting that. I mean, obviously Ring of Honor is going through all their stuff. Like that's a whole candy bag
Right.
itself. But like, just not at all. Yeah, Bray's like the slow ticking time bomb. It's just like a matter of
Hmm.
when. Everybody's just
Right.
at the edge of their chair, like. And yeah, I don't know. Is it AEW's going to? There's a lot of rumors about Impact that he's going there. It's just like, whew, all right. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, and Braun Strowman as well.
Hmm.
You know, like what I mean, the it's got to be a nostalgia thing. I really like the Wyatt family, and if somehow Bray were to show up with Braun and Eric Rowan,
Hmm.
Redbeard, or whatever they're calling him,
Yeah.
that again, it would be another reason to tune in. You
Hmm.
know, like only because you know to some degree that they're going to be able to do the characters how they want to do them, and you know there's more of an incentive there to do it right, and that's what makes it worth watching.
Hmm.
Like, and I think as they begin to like refine the product over the next handful of years, um, and they don't fall into the kind of the same pitfalls of focusing on the financial aspect of things, those quarterly investor calls and things like this. I think that they can continue to make an awesome product.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah,
Nice. So
yeah.
speaking of awesome products, they had an event last night. They had Full Gear
They
as of
did.
recording. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, holy crap. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 matches, including the pre-show or the buy-in.
Yeah.
4-hour event. They always have the longest
Yeah.
things. So chat, just in case you didn't know what happened last night, I'm going to run through the card right now. So we had in the buy-in, we had Sheeta and Thunder Rosa against Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose. And then starting the show, the actual event, MGF versus Darby Allin. We had the Lucha Bros defending their tag team titles against FTR. We had Bryan Danielson against Miro in the Eliminator Tournament final. We had Christian Cage and Jurassic Express against the Super Click in a street fight, if I'm not mistaken there. We had Rhodes and Pac teaming up against Malachi Black and Andrade. Britt Baker defending her title against Ty Conti. CM Punk against Eddie Kingston. Inner Circle against Men of the Year and American Top Team. And then lastly, we had Adam Page against Kenny Omega for the world title. Whew! A lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. So I didn't get
not a single bad match.
Yeah, somehow they do that. It's like there's no filler match. Like, you know, at certain events, you're like, oh, there's this one in between to cut the yeah. But man, I don't know how they do it. Just like, and the crowd stays with it too. They never die. It's insane.
Right.
So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the event. I plan on watching the replay later tonight, but I was staying on Twitter and keeping up with results there. Kris, you said you actually watched the event, correct?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. It was kind of the first time for a long time that I stayed in my seat, minimize the distractions.
Yeah.
And really just watched wrestling. And
Nice.
I was not disappointed at all.
Good.
There was nowhere in there did I feel like I should have been watching like an AEW Dark or an AEW Elevation match or something like that. Like every single match was a banger.
Nice. Did you have a standout of the night? I know you mentioned there was a couple like, whew, that was really good. Did you have a standout match or a match of the night?
That's where it's really tough. The first match out of the gate, MJF and Darby it was a fantastic match. Like as far as, they want to set the tone with that first match and I'm like, there's no way it's going to get better from here. And it kind of did. I want to say every match had its moment where, when you're watching and you just involuntarily crack a smile about something, you're just like, oh, right, that was really cool. That was, every match had something like that. But my favorites, and I know as soon as I say one, I'm going to forget about another one. I'm going to have to go with MJF and Darby just because my expectations weren't very high.
Yeah.
And that match was completely on par with the Kenny and Adam Page match.
Wow.
Nice. You could have swapped those two in the position on the pay-per-view. They would have torn the house down whether they went first or last. Yeah.
Wow.
It was So I know I'm hyping this up. So now you get to go watch it, and I
exactly.
hope it lives up to
I will. I'm sure it will. Yeah, I think the one I'm most interested to see. Oh man, that's even tough to answer, I guess too. I'm intrigued, but only because I saw this one moment off of Twitter. I'm really excited to see the street fight from Jurassic Express and Cage against Super Click.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Luchasaurus doing a shooting star onto those guys. What?
That was one of those moments. Exactly. I'm like, a man that size shouldn't be able to do that. And it didn't look slow. That is an agile dinosaur. That is crazy.
Million years old, and still doing that. Come on.
Yeah. And I like that the Bucks and Adam Cole had I don't know if it was intentionally like a Bret Hart thing, but I was definitely getting some Hitman vibes from their gear.
Okay.
And it looked really good. Adam Cole, I guess he's one of those guys that can make anything look good, but he was looking pretty sharp in the black and hot pink. Yeah. That match, just by and large, was really good. Jungle Boy was wearing pants, which was a good change.
Oh, okay. Well, street fight, I guess. Okay, going that way.
Yeah. The denim was working for him. But I just think getting him out of the loincloth in terms of viewing him as a more formidable or intimidating, you wouldn't see Brock Lesnar in a loincloth.
Right.
That kind of a thing. And he's got I can't wait to see him and Darby go at it in a main event in the future. Mm-hmm. Jungle Boy, he's one of those guys that are damn near top notch as well.
Yeah.
And so, that match was really fun. They did a lot of really cool things there.
Nice.
They hit all the spots too with the like super kicks everywhere, and the hits. It was good.
It's good. Yeah, it's interesting to see Jungle Boy's progression. You mentioned obviously with Darby earlier, the promos. Like even Jungle Boy's kind of kicking the door down with his own promos. Like he was another one that was like the silent protagonist, just like, oh, it's
Hmm.
Tarzan, but and now he's, especially with this feud here, like seems to be really getting emotional behind it and showing that, and makes it intriguing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. Does he revert back to the, just being the Jungle Boy, or is it just like more of a moniker type thing, and we go from there?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I'd love to see him portrayed as a more serious wrestler because, yeah, he's got the in ring stuff for sure.
so what I'm interested in how it went. How was the 5-on-5? How was Inner Circle versus Top Team? Because like I'm always not against people coming in, but I'm always like about, I don't know, just people who aren't wrestlers by nature coming in and doing stuff. And I mean, we've had some surprises in the past. Obviously, the most recent one I can think of was Bad Bunny at Mania, like crushing it, doing
Yeah,
good there.
yeah,
So yeah, how
he
did this one
did.
go?
Yeah. It wasn't that. It wasn't Bad Bunny, but it was still really good. They did enough of putting people in the right positions to hit spots. That it was entertaining. Sammy Guevara jumped off like a 20-foot ladder.
Oh,
Like he did like a straight. It was oh my God, I want to say it was a TLC or a WrestleMania back in the early 2000s, and Edge did some insane leap off of I don't think it was Jeff Hardy. I want to say it was Edge during a pay-per-view, and it was a similar situation where you're like, he's not going to jump off of that. Like
mm.
that's way too high. He jumped off, and it was absolutely insane. Like Sammy can. I didn't think he had it in him. I wasn't sure he had it in him. Um, and it was really good. Again, Chris Jericho with his Eddie Guerrero tribute, he has a really good moment there. And as a kid, watching him and Eddie fight in the cruiserweight matches in WCW, it hits young Chris in a certain spot to see that kind of thing. And but with your UFC guys and your guys that don't come in, one of the big things that I've really begun to appreciate watching so much non WWE product is really seeing and appreciating people that have cadence in the ring. That it's a dance, and so they're hitting them with timing, and there's a certain amount of bounce in their step, so that they're conditioned well enough, to do what they're doing athletically, right? They don't look gassed, and the UFC guys, they look real flat usually, and it was kind of the same thing. Um, there was a couple moves though where they pulled him off, but it kind of could have gone either way.
Gotcha.
One of the finish, Jericho goes to jump onto the ropes like he's gonna do. He would do like his
The lion salt, yeah.
yeah, the lion salt, and he was supposed to get hit while he was on the ropes, and it kind of again cadence. He was kind of hanging onto the ropes like, hurry up and hit me in the face, bro. And, so it was that kind of thing. But aside from that, the match itself was really entertaining.
Nice.
They did a really good, and I really don't like that Dan Lambert guy.
Oh yeah.
Like at all. He's another guy that and going back and watching more indies, I can kind of see where he has a reputation for someone that can draw heat. It doesn't like translate the same on big TV, but watching some of the indie stuff in the smaller venues, and I'm like, okay, yeah, if that guy just started shouting on the microphone, I'd be throwing my drink at him too. Like, I totally get it. So he does play a good hateable character. It's kind of reminiscent of oh my gosh, and I can't remember his name, but he was teamed up with the League of Nations. He had the big old mustache.
Oh, Zeb Coulter.
Yes, yes. Kind of those kind of vibes, but maybe turned up to 11. Yeah. So that was all right. But yeah, it was a good match. It was fun. Not the highlight of the night though. I mean, but even then, like, not a match that you want to get up and use the restroom during either. That kind of is good.
Nice. And then how'd CM Punk and Eddie Kingston go? Did they kill each other?
that match was great.
Oh yeah.
That match was great. They did. And I don't know if it was an intentional thing, but they were both bleeding by the end of the
Oh okay.
match. It was there CM Punk is out there putting his body on the line still. Like he's not on any kind of glory or comeback tour. Like he's out there fighting, and it was interesting story wise to kind of see a turning of the tables during this match, where and I'm really hopeful that this is the angle that they're going, because whereas in the past CM Punk was like the underdog, he was the voice for the voice of the voiceless, right? Was the moniker, and now he comes back as this established commodity, and you got guys now like Eddie Kingston who are more of this era as CM Punk, where
Mhm.
he's just like he's definitely like the underdog. He's like, I'm not supposed to be here. He don't look like a wrestler. Like he's just here to beat people up. And it was really neat to see from a story standpoint. Like by the end of the match, uh, the worse it got for Eddie Kingston, the more the crowd was actually booing CM Punk.
Oh okay.
And it was, I mean, again, I was like, wow, it was really cool, because again, stories. Now we're gonna get some storytelling, and it's not just going to be about the really neat matchups between Punk and whoever. Like we're going to be doubling back to this again at some point, I hope, and now we're establishing some real beef between the two. And it was really good. At the end of the match, there were some parallels between it and the Eddie Kingston, um, Brian Danielson, aka don't call him Daniel Bryan. There were some parallels in the end of that match where Danielson got up and extended the hand and was like, hey, respect. And, Kingston was like, and just dipped out of the ring.
Okay.
Similar thing happened with Punk. And so I think that we're at some point going to just end up, I hope, story wise, with just like an Eddie Kingston, like Rampage. Oh, I guess that's the name of one of the shows. But, where he's just mowing his way through the roster. And I think we're going to come back to those Punk matches and those Danielson matches, and we're going to get an entire different iteration, and these are now just kind of establishing the foundation for that. So that was kind of what that match really felt like. It was good storytelling wise. It was really good. They did beat the snot out of each other. My 5-year-old was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I was like, here's the let's find an iPad for you to watch, kid. It was really good.
Nice. Any other standouts that you wanted to kind of mention that you thought just kind of took over the night, or maybe had something that stood out?
That's tough. That's tough. Yeah, Kenny Omega and Adam Page, that was a fantastic match and a great moment at the end. And to hear that Kenny Omega is doing this, with injuries, and still is wrestling at an incredibly high, and just taking some bumps, man. I really am excited for you to actually sit down and watch the pay-per-view, because it's definitely worth the 4-hour investment. It absolutely is. And I mean, really, that's what I ask when I watch something that takes that long, is to respect my time.
For sure.
And it absolutely does. It absolutely does. So I mean, for those reasons, the pay-per-view itself stands out. It kind of really, I really hope that more wrestling products are like that.
Right.
The Ty Conti Britt Baker match was really good. And I know we kind of touched on this earlier, so I kind of wanted to double back to it,
Mm-hmm.
where and I was mentioning earlier about kind of like cadence and movement, and Ty Conti has had some really great work recently. And for whatever reason, last night during that match, it she didn't look formidable
Okay.
standing across from Britt Baker. Britt Baker was moving a bit more agile. I guess to kind of try to like paint the picture. Bianca Belair has only been wrestling for a few years, just like period, right?
Right.
But when she moves, there's a certain like skip in her step. There's a certain like absence of gravity. She's really light on her feet, and because of that, she hits the marks. There's a certain rhythm to her movement. She's gonna get across rope to rope in X amount of steps, so she's not shuffling her feet. It doesn't look unathletic. Um, and there was a lot of moments last night during that match where, and because of Ty Conti's work, where she looked like a step behind or maybe a little gassed or like the moment was too big or, like I don't know what could have contributed to that kind of thing. Cause I know I've seen her in the ring perform differently. But that was probably the one match where it did have its moments and there was some real hard hitting, pro wrestling going on. Um, but I was kind of bummed to see because I wanted to see it be a moment where she absolutely rises to the occasion
Mm-hmm.
and looks like she deserves to stand toe to toe with the AEW Women's Champion. And I was actually relieved at the end that Britt Baker retained because, again, like had Ty Conti won, it would have been. I just don't think it would have felt believable to me, And so I hope that is one of those things where it's like it was a great match and they still, it was still entertaining for what it was. The fact that we're watching wrestling and actually critiquing wrestling and it's not, whatever, people put in turkeys or pumpkins on their heads or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
like that means a lot right there in terms of the progression just in general. But there's definitely some other more deserving women in the AEW women's division that I'd like to see start making their ascent up the ranks. You got Ruby Soho in there, and I know she can hit the marks and she's really entertaining and as a wrestler just to watch her move and do the work. And as impressive as some of the others are, like that's kind of the one thing that I've really seen, and it's kind of the same for the men too. When they're not moving a certain way, they're not hitting their marks, you can really tell, and it gives you an appreciation for wrestlers, like the Usos or John Cena. John Cena is the most boring pro wrestler you ever watched wrestle, but he hits the marks every single time. That's why he's boring. You know what to expect.
Right.
His stride is the same. I mean, I don't know, but you could probably put 100 videos together of him hitting rope to rope, and his foot's hitting the same spot on, same mark on the mat. So in order to be boring, you got to be damn good, and you really never saw him make a clumsy move. And there's still quite a few people on the AEW roster where that is the case from time to time. But it's exciting to see like when you do see a guy that just suddenly makes this huge progression like a Sammy Guevara or even Adam Page. Like watching like OG Adam Page stuff, he was good and you could tell that he was going to be really something someday, but he still struck me as kind of like the Bullet Club kid brother kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where now he I mean, can stand alone with no group, no entourage. The Dark Order stuff is entertaining, but it's just kind of icing on the cake.
Right.
Um, that kind of thing. Sorry, I feel like I got off on a
Oh, you're
on a
good.
tangent now because I'm thinking about like the show and kind of like the product kind of by and large. And there's a lot of good stuff going on there. But it's really fun to see the guys where um and I guess to WWE's credit, they do a good job at finding people that can hit the marks like that. Even guys like Braun Breaker.
Mm.
Like of course he's got that purebred lineage, but he's a pretty damn good wrestler too.
Yeah.
He's not tripping over his own feet like some other guys that are out there. And so it's one of those it's really is it's fun to look at it now kind of from a more analytical standpoint and kind of see those kinds of things. So like it's not necessarily so I guess I'm trying to qualify my criticism of Ty Conti. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm doing. That's
Yeah.
probably what it's sorry.
No, that's fair. I mean, hey, that makes sense. Yeah, I was interested with that one because, like, like I said, Ty's gotten better, but a lot of her stuff has been dark and elevation. Not that's a bad thing, but because like that's where you get reps, and this was her first
Yeah,
big opportunity. So,
right.
unfortunately, if it didn't hit 100%, that's all right. On to the next one. It's just a matter of getting that confidence up, I guess.
Right. Well, and I hope that we do see, the people that are more realized in as far as in-ring talent start making their ascent. And Ty Conti is good, and like I said, she has had some really great matches. Like I'm not saying like overall,
Right.
and so I'm hoping that whoever is doing the creative and the booking can resist the temptation to pull events, because I can see it being an entertaining card to promote like Britt Baker versus Jade Cargill, and like they try to like present her like a Brock Lesnar type. She's got the handler, and she comes out. She's got a couple big moves, but she doesn't quite move in ring like that either.
Yeah.
She can hit some moves, but she's not quite, again, to use Brock Lesnar. She's more Lars Sullivan, less
Mm.
Brock Lesnar. You know, to where yeah, she definitely fits the mold, and I mean, she looks phenomenal, and she has the power moves and the presentation, and she looks like she was drawn right out of a comic book,
Yeah.
you know. But again, I hope they resist the temptation of like strap a rocket to her too quick,
For
you
sure.
know. Because there are some others. There are some others. Like you mentioned Thunder Rosa earlier. I mean, I want to see some Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, Ruby Soho, like triple threat matches. Like all three of those girls can go. Um, Sheeta, like
Hmm.
she can go. She reminds me of old Asuka.
Yeah.
And not just because of their lineage, but just because of the hard hitting style of fighting, and it's that strong style. Like it's yeah. Anyway, so that put a pin in that, but those are my hopes for the women's division in AEW.
Nice. So yeah, there's AEW and some Full Gear talk. So we're gonna move on to topic 2. Kris, what's your topic today?
Man. So yeah, last we spoke was back in May. I was getting ready to move from the house that I'd been living in. I'd been a nursing home administrator in the King County, Washington area for about a year at that point, and we were on the cusp of moving back to where we lived previously.
Mm.
So we've done that. I had a dream of opening up a disc golf shop. We did that, and I can't say that it's been all sunshine and roses, but going through that exercise was actually really empowering in a lot of ways. The business is up, it's running. We've, made a little bit of money doing it, but sometimes life throws you some curveballs, and unfortunately in my situation, I was getting some assistance in forming this business, and it was allowing me to grow the business but not rely on it for income. So
Mm.
it was tied to the unemployment assistance, because as a healthcare executive, my profession isn't in high demand. So that's kind of what qualified me for this program that assisted me in achieving this dream. And along with that, I even enlisted the services of an advisor that helps you through the ideation process and really trying to figure out, one, putting pen to paper, is this going to be something that's going to work out? And yeah, and really, it started really to take shape. I'm still confident that with that iteration of the business and what I was doing, if I was given the amount of time I thought I had, we would have been onto something good. But alas, sometimes you get an email that says, "Hey, by the way, you're getting one more check. Better find a job." Okay, great. So I did that, and I'm actually working for another healthcare provider here near my new old home. It's 4 minutes from my house.
Ooh, okay.
Healthcare administration is a very lucrative career, so I don't have to rely on any money from the business. But it also gives me some extra income that I can put into it. So
Right.
now we're in a process of kind of reimagining what the business can be. It's no secret to anybody that knows my name or has met me or follows me on Twitter that occasionally I draw stuff. And
Occasionally.
so I've been, I've been really fortunate that, especially recently, my stuff's been pretty well received. And I mean, Xavier Woods retweeted fan art, and
Mm-hmm.
Big E, I think, even liked it, which that was enough. I thought that was great. I was like, I can retire now.
Right.
But I was actually really fortunate that I put out some fan art that was disc golf related, and the right people saw it, and I was contacted by a couple of professionals in the industry.
Nice.
And so I think I'm up to 4 professionals now that I've done artwork for. And now I've also done it for another disc golf retailer. And so
Ooh.
these came out recently. This was a logo that I made for an amateur disc golfer that's native to Washington, but at 12 years old, she's competing against grown women and beating them at all of the largest tournaments across the country. And so I've been really fortunate to, kind of partner with them as just their friendly neighborhood artist. And so I'm probably going to work on a revision of this cool logo that I made. I want to make sure I get it in the frame correctly.
Yeah,
I'm
you're good.
looking at the
Oh.
I'm looking at the stream over here, and I know I'm cropped a little bit, so I just want to make sure. So anyhow, um, and so yeah, so instead of having this disc golf shop where I have to have, several $1,000s worth of inventory to cycle through monthly in order to be able to take a couple for myself, I can now try to position myself as more of a art-driven niche within not only disc golf, but it allows me to kind of rest at this intersection between disc golf and the video games industry.
Mm-hmm.
I have done a lot of art for people in the video games industry and podcasting, YouTubers, and now disc golf. And so now I really get to kind of get into this whole passion project, and it's now does become kind of a labor of love. So with the business already established, I already have the wholesale agreements in place with all of the major manufacturers in disc golf. And the majority of them, for a small fee, they will make, because they have to CNC with aluminum an actual stamp to put the images on the discs.
Okay.
So there's a small fee for that kind of a thing. But I'll be able to put out limited edition discs with my own art on them. And my plan is to try to elicit the help of streamers, friends that I have in the gaming industry, and make these kind of again at the intersection of the two things that I love. So, so we can have an Enigma disc, with some new artwork you may or may not have coming in your future.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm really close friends with Snowbike Mike. Mike and I have been friends for. He honestly is the first person that ever bought a piece of digital art for
Oh,
me
okay.
ever.
Nice.
And we got to hang out a couple times, and we spent one weekend hanging out at PAX West a few years ago, and like that's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's always sounding the alarm, and whenever I have something going on, he's like, this is the guy. So it'd be really cool for my first disc to be like a Snowbike Mike disc, and draw some cool pug on there doing something, and get it out there, and really try to get at that intersection between disc golf and gaming. There's a lot of people that I didn't even really suspect, really, that I see on Twitter from time to time that are in the gaming world specifically that reference disc golf because it's something that they do in their spare time for exercise, but they don't consider themselves disc golfers. That's
Okay.
not how they identify themselves. But there's definitely a lot of us out there, and so I really want to try to leverage that and kind of get out there and position myself right in between those two worlds. And I think just professionally as an artist, if eventually if I ever want to do that instead of what I'm doing now, that's probably the best angle I can take.
Right.
Really because of disc golf and gaming are the friends that I've made and the things that I've just observed. Like there's no stronger community bonds than between those in those two spaces. And so yeah, I mean, I definitely, it's part of the reason why I love both things. So I want to live it and breathe it someday. So that's the hope and dream. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, here in the near future, I'm going to be liquidating everything on my site. Everything's going to be like 20% off. I'm going to probably move some of it on to, I have a friend that owns a disc golf shop. So I may be moving on some of my wholesale stuff to him. But we're just going to be cleaning up shop and repositioning ourselves. And it's really neat. I have been told for a little while now from peers of mine that, hey, you're actually pretty good at this art thing. Um, and I never really put that amount of stock in myself until recently. And so it's kind of neat to be in a position now where professionally my career is in a really great place, and now I get to just kind of indulge in stuff that I really enjoy. So yeah, so that's the plan. I'm gonna try to do that, and then I'm kind of honing the skills. You'll probably see a couple of pieces of art from me before the year's out. I'm actually right now doodling a CM Punk piece. I think I might do. Just because when you watch the match and you see the aftermath, it's hard to not want to draw something cool from that. But aside from that, though, I'm going to take a little hiatus, and I'm actually taking some time to observe and learn and really try to hone in and identify what I want my style to be. It's in the digital space, there's just so many different options and there's so many different influences that I have. You can probably see a lot of my influences present in my art, but I have a picture in my head of what I want my stuff to look like. And right now I just need a better understanding of my tools and some time to maybe do some more studying to, hone in on my own recipes for creating certain things. And then I'll get back to it sometime next year, putting out some more fan art and stuff. I might put out some sketch stuff between now and then, but yeah, it's kind of neat now. I'm going to take some time and really kind of uh, try to master something, which is kind of neat. Feel like an old school monk kind of thing. I'm gonna go hang out in the cave and draw on the walls for a while, and we'll see what ends up coming from that. But I'm pretty excited. I'm actually starting to really kind of look at art now in a different way. And for artists, and I know in the communities that you and I hang out in, there's a lot of fan artists and a lot of super 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 talented people. And I love that my timeline on, or my Twitter feed is just filled with these awesome, amazing, supportive people. And it's neat watching all of their styles progress. And the one common thing, it's really difficult to have an image in mind and get it onto paper. And 90% of what we're doing is just trying to see. Is just trying to take what we see and translate it into something that resembles what's jumping around in our imagination. And for an artist that hasn't really honed in on their own style and hasn't come up with their own recipes for creating their art, it's really hard because there's actually some freedom in having some confinement with having your own style. If you have to draw an arm and you don't have a style, then you're gonna really try hard to draw an arm. But where do you put that first line? But once you have a realized style and you're really working those recipes, then you have a way of drawing arms, and then in almost any situation you can draw that arm, whether it's coming at you, away from you, whatever angle. And so I really am wanting to get to a place where I can rely less on on reference material. A lot of artists and myself included rely pretty heavily on that kind of thing, but I want to use it in a more constructive way. And know that, again, if it's an arm, that's fine. I don't care whose arm. I have my own way of making arms. I'm just using it so that way I make sure I get the angle or the lighting right or something like that.
Right.
Where I feel like right now I'm a little too reliant on those kinds of things. And then I have moments where I have like ups and downs with the art, where I'll draw caricatures. Is something that I've actually really grown and improved on in the last year. I used to be pretty terrible at faces, and now I feel like when I draw people, it pretty much resembles them. I was really excited. The one I've done most recently, I felt like I hit the nail on the head pretty well. I did a Khalif Adams. Love that guy. Again, that guy's family all day. Um, that one I was really really happy with how the face turned out there. And then I have these other moments, like even though Xavier Woods was awesome enough to share the image, I felt like the face looked like I had used like a wax museum Xavier Woods as a reference, or it looks like him but almost kind of is. And so every time I look at it, I'm like, there's so many good things about this, but I really want to redo the face.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, again, I just want to be able to just again have a clear idea of how to put those things together, because then I'll be able to do them in a more efficiently,
Yep.
and and also make good art. Because at the end of the day, if I can get an opportunity to draw stuff that I love for a living, or maybe even just while I'm working in my current profession, take on some contracts, just small contract, one-off work with a game studio, doing some character design or something that I can do on a part-time contract basis.
Right.
I know that works out there. So I just got to position myself to be that guy. So yeah, so that's it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the positivity is great, especially because shifts of any kind can always be stressful, and I'm sure you had those stresses. But hearing the plan now and like your positive outlook towards it is fantastic, man, and that's
No,
great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's gonna be great seeing, obviously, once you are done with your break and you're studying in the caves, like what comes out of that. Because yeah, your work right now, especially these past couple months that I've seen, you posting on Twitter and stuff, like it's just incredible. So it's gonna be cool to see that refresh, kind of, if you want to take it that way, just like take a step
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
go from there, and move on. That's awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool. So you mentioned the studying and the tools. Is there something that like you feel tool wise, program wise, whatever it is, like that's a starting point for you to work
Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, over the last couple of years, I mean, so I've really only been drawing digitally for about 3 years,
on?
maybe
Okay.
shorter than that. I was doing everything traditionally, pencil sketches and then, ink, and I was actually really intimidated by the idea of digital art and coloring in general, which now it's something that I'm really fascinated by and I want to improve at. Um, it was Nerf Alice
Mm.
who I met at PAX West. It feels like forever ago, but it was probably only in like 2017 or 2018 or something like that. She and I collaborated on a piece about this time of year, and I did the line work, and it was not my best line work, but she threw some colors on that thing, and I was like, "Oh my God, you are a magician!" And so that really was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. So tool wise, I started out with a $40, um, you know, Amazon tablet. It didn't have a screen of its own, so you're looking at the monitor while you're
Yep.
drawing. And it was handy, and I actually went back and looked at like my first like Greg Miller fan art piece that I did back then, and it wasn't bad. The line work was pretty good. Like I was actually looking, I was like, hey, all right, for what it was and what I had to work with, I was pleased. Um, and then uh, kind of graduated from that and was using a kind of an older, smaller iPad for a bit. And I was using Procreate, which a lot of artists use. And that was going really well. I did find just kind of some limitations there. And I don't know if it was like my lack of understanding of the software, what have you, but um, Ethan, everybody. I watch on Twitch pretty frequently a creator who calls himself Young Khan,
Okay.
and he does actually a lot of emote work and stream asset work for probably most of the streamers that we watch. He's kind of like the silent hero of Twitch. Like this guy is just killing it. And and so I really kind of got obsessed with watching what he was doing. And he introduced me to software called Clip Studio Paint,
Mhm.
which I now learned is kind of like an industry standard kind of software.
Wow.
It's very similar to Photoshop. or Illustrator. They have a lot of parallels. You can actually take brushes from those Adobe softwares and use them in Clip Studio. So there's some
Oh, okay.
interchangeability there. Um, and so he was using it for emotes and for like sketching and things that he was doing for his products. But it really just kind of got me going down the rabbit hole of that particular software. And that is where I think the biggest growth I had probably of that period was the more I was able to figure out how to use those tools, the better off I was. So then I needed a different tablet because Clip Studio is on the iPad, but for the iPad I had wasn't a great experience. So I ended up with a Huion 13-inch. This is a decent tablet. It's not. It's probably mid-level artist tablet. You have to plug it into your PC, so you're tethered to your desk. But again, using that, my art again made another jump and in quality. And so that was, I guess, just a positive development, and it gave me an opportunity to get further down the rabbit hole of Clip Studio and develop an understanding there. And then most recently, I follow and watch videos and things, and I just really like the social when they post on social media the art of this guy named Nolanium. Um, I want to say his name's like Nolan Harris or something like that. But he's kind of from the same area that I'm in.
Hmm.
I'm a couple hours from Seattle. He's from Seattle. He actually does a lot of licensed illustration work for the WWE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that was where I first started seeing his stuff was like WWE fan art, and then suddenly he was given like a cease and desist because he was selling prints,
Hmm.
and then he was working for them. So I'm like, that's pretty rad. Um, and so yeah, I was just kind of following his stuff, and he works on an iPad Pro. And the idea of not being tethered to my desk is something that is really it's just something that's really important to me. I like to be able to just I like standing at my counter in the kitchen. It's
Oh,
really
okay.
weird. It drives my fiance crazy. Because like I come home from work and then I stand in the kitchen for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but I got the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil 2, and I can use Clip Studio Paint, and it's bigger than the tablet I was using for the PC.
Hmm.
And I'm not a spokesperson for Apple, but I
Cool.
should be. These things, they're big. The internals are, I believe, identical to that year's MacBook Pros,
Oh, okay.
like the M1 chip and all that good stuff. I'm not so much into all that. Oh, I don't want to show the work in progress. Hang on. I don't want to show that one either. Oh, I'll show this one. But yeah, it's like the line quality. Like just, I feel like so much about the work is gotten better. It's a larger surface to work with. The Apple
Yeah.
Pencil works incredibly well. Um, and yeah, so and now I'm kind of using both. So and I apologize if this has gotten such a long discussion about the tools, but I'm using Clip Studio Paint to do a lot of the iterative work, the early part of the process, and all of the polish work, all of the little extra uh you know um little embellishments, if I make something shine a little bit, or I really like some of the halftone effects. I'm polishing and finishing my pieces in Procreate. So it's cool that with this tablet I can really switch back and forth between the two, with no waiting. It's
Mm.
literally just a swipe of the finger, and I'm between the two if I need to be. And yeah, so I would say for digital artists, like the tools are definitely going to be the biggest part of the equation. Being comfortable, and having a good understanding of what you're working with, and that's going to end up being, a lifetime endeavor. It's like as soon as I feel like I figure something out, I see something else, or I do something on accident, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how that worked. How did I do that, or how did and again, down the rabbit hole you go. So. Um, But I would definitely say for anybody that starting out, iPad, Apple Pencil, couple $100, is a great place to start. And YouTube is a great resource to, you know, get pointers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Always something you can search on YouTube. How do I do that? Oh, okay. Just boop boop boop. There you go. Definitely for sure. Cool.
You still see down there.
Well, nice. Well, Kris, I'm glad you got the new goals in motion and you got the plan out for yourself. That's great. We'll have to follow up in the next couple months and see how we're doing with that. What's the
Yeah,
next thing?
yeah, definitely, definitely,
Very cool. Well, guys, this has
definitely.
been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma 911, and today I was joined once again by Kris, aka Young Tough One. Kris, thank you so much for doing the podcast today, man. It means a lot.
Hey, thank you for having me on, and thanks for being flexible with the time.
Oh yeah, I mean we were both having things like, oh god, audio
Yeah,
things, dog things. Dog things
I
are
don't know if
important.
I don't know if you can see her on screen there, but she's walking out. Yeah,
Yay!
anyway, that was another development too. I recently got a German Shepherd, and she's about 4 months old, and she is amazing.
Good.
I wanted a dog that was going to be like a family member. She's a family member.
Good.
So get yourself a German Shepherd. For birthday.
If you guys want to catch this podcast live, go over to twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, usually. You can check it out over there. You can join the chat like Jeff did today. If you're a subscriber over there, join in on the conversation. We'd love to have you. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Reminder, Extra Life 2021 is happening November 20th at 12 noon Eastern, 24 hours of gaming, raising money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Any way you can help us out by either donating, spreading the word, or watching would be greatly appreciated. If you're catching this podcast as soon as it drops, it's tomorrow, so set your calendar, set your reminders, and if you missed it, no worries. You can still donate up until the end of the year, and that will go towards that total. And last but not least, hashtag ad merch store. Get all of your swag over there, t-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand. Support us, and we will love you for it. And maybe we'll have some new merch dropping soon. Maybe. We'll see.
I was gonna ask. I can't wait.
I saw it and I was like, how can I not? How can I not? I would be stupid. So yes, maybe we'll have some new merch on the horizon. We'll see. But yeah, Kris, thank you again so much for doing the podcast today, man. I appreciate it.
Definitely, anytime. Thank you.
Awesome. Viewers, watchers, listeners, thanks for hanging out, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care.